Well, it's that time again. It's me, Ethan, just Ethan. It is 7:01 p.m. on Tuesday, July 26th, 2021. It's 4:01 p.m. on the East Coast. 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6. That's right. Hi, Deirdre. It's good to see you. As always, as I was talking to Jess beforehand, it's been a while since Just Ethan has been Just Ethan, but it's good to be back by myself. Not that I didn't enjoy having all the awesome guests. Thomas Thackeray was amazing a couple of weeks ago. Hope you all enjoyed him. Please say hello. Let me know you're here, like Deirdre did. You can even add where you're from. And we'll get started in just a couple minutes per usual. Hey, there's Lovelana. Hey, Dave. It is just me today. Oh, should we call it Just Methan? Just Methan. Huh? That sounds selfish, doesn't it? Just Methan. It could be interesting. Hi, Jessica. Welcome. First time watching. That's awesome. Welcome, welcome. Deirdre, I know where you're from, but I'm glad you said. For sure. Well, if you guys are just coming in the room, as always, say hello. Let me know where you're from. Jessica, where are you from? It's been, like I said, it's been a minute. It hasn't been a Just Ethan since I think early December, because we had Zach Westerbeck on December 15th and then Thomas the time before. We have Nikki Bradley coming all the way from the Dublins of Ireland. Hey, Nikki, how are you? I hope you're doing awesome. We have Marty Engel. Good day, Ethan. Marty in Australia. I don't know why I called you Marty. It's Martin. Sorry about that, but I'm sure people call you Marty. Elizabeth from Texas. Hi, Elizabeth, my home state. And it is just now hitting the 2-minute mark. So I think we'll get rolling here shortly. In Maryland. Well, welcome, Maryland. And Ivy in Virginia. Hi, Ivy. Good to see you. So let's get rolling. I think we'll just jump right into it. So if you're just joining us, please say hello. Let me know you're here. Let me know where you're from. As always, I like to keep things moving and talking. And so we'll definitely answer questions throughout the evening for the next hour. But hey, Greg, good to see you. But if you have thoughts or comments in the meantime, we're just going to work everything in as we go. Representing boys, boat. Where is that? Bosian? Is that how you say? Oh, he just corrected him. That's hilarious. Oh, Greg typoed Boston. Oh, representing Boston. Okay, that makes more sense. I was like, I've never heard of Bosian, but I'm sure it's a lovely city. I hope somebody else laughed with me, because that made me laugh. And we've got Jennifer in New York and Robert all the way from Germany. Thank you for joining us from Germany. Hey, Betsy from PA. No, it's all good on the typo. It made me laugh. That was much needed. And Tina from San Jose. Perfect. Keep saying hello. And let's get to the housekeeping so we get to some good conversation. So my name is Ethan Smith, as you know, or you may not know, but either way, my name is Ethan. I'm the national advocate for the International OCD Foundation, which, oh my gosh, my cousin Loretta's here. Hi, Loretta. It's good to see you. Hope you're well. And Nick is there. We have snow in Colorado for you. Awesome. I love snow. Actually, never been skiing, though, if you can't believe that. So my name is Ethan. I'm the national advocate for the International OCD Foundation, which simply means I have OCD and I will not stop talking about it. This town hall is intended for educational content and is intended to serve as educational content. It is not included to replace therapy, because I am not a therapist. For treatment-related questions, please be sure to work with your local provider or contact a local clinician. The International OCD Foundation is not a crisis hotline and should not be used if you are in distress or feel unsafe. If you are in a crisis or ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please go to your local emergency room, call 911, or call the Suicide Prevention Hotline at 800-273-8255. Also, as always, we always want to be respectful and kind of others. We try to create as safe a space as possible. Obviously, we are on the interwebs. This is on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Who knows where else it'll live here. But with that being said, we're here to support one another and talk about things that are important to us. So with that being said, always be respectful and kind. And I think we can have a very meaningful conversation. Sorry, I'm closing. My email's interrupting me. We can have a very meaningful conversation. So with that, I think we should get started. If you're just joining us, welcome to Just Ethan. Say hello. Let me know where you're from. I wanted to check in first with you guys and hear how, I know we're a little into January, but how were your holidays? How was your December? Let me know how you did. I know we talked a little bit before about why the holidays can be tough, especially when struggling with OCD or related disorders or other mental illness. Expectations are put upon us to feel a certain way. So I'm curious how everyone fared for the holidays. If you had a good time, if you had a rough time, if you struggled, please feel free to let me know how you're doing. If you have any questions around that. It used to be that I would talk for 30 minutes and then answer questions, but toward the end of last year, I really got into like having a conversation with everyone just from the beginning, which I really enjoyed. And I hope you did too. Or if you didn't, I can talk for 30 minutes. So whatever you prefer, but please let me know how you're doing. And also, if you have any general questions or you had some questions on your mind, don't hesitate to put them in the comment thread, and we can definitely dive in. No subject is off topic except medication. I'm not a doctor, though. As I always say, I played one on TV. True story. 2003 CSI Miami. Check it out on Hulu. I think it's streaming. So with that, while I'm waiting to get some comments in, I was having a conversation earlier today. Well, you know what? First, I'm going to update you on me, because I think one of the most important things about advocacy is both, being an advocate and sharing experiences, but not only you sharing experiences with me, but me sharing experiences with you, because just like you, I have OCD and I struggle at times, and it's not always easy. So I think it's important for you to know that, I have good days and bad days, just like you do. And we're in this together always. We're always here for each other and always supporting one another. Hey, Marilyn from South Louisiana. Hope you're doing well. I'm glad to hear your holidays were great. And Love Lana gave a thumbs up, so I'm excited to hear that. So I've had some big changes in my life. I moved in with my girlfriend, which is I think a pretty big deal, especially for someone that struggled with OCD most of his life. Until getting treatment at the age of 32, I always dreamed of having this kind of personal life, but never thought it was possible for me. But after 10 plus years of managing OCD and going to therapy and doing what I needed to do, just things kind of play out. So that isn't to say that change has been easy, because it isn't. Change is difficult in general. Change is hard. Change is a lot of uncertainty. There's Thomas wrote, "Oh man, you got the keys." Thomas, our guest from last week, is in the house. He did such a great job. Hopefully, if you saw him, you enjoyed it, because he really, really, really did a brave thing, opened up, told a story, first time advocating publicly like this. So glad to see you on, Thomas, and we really enjoyed having you. We look forward to having you back, because he announced he was engaged, so now we have to hear about when he is married. Thank you so much, Betsy. I appreciate that. And thank you, Jennifer. So it got me thinking about change. There's definitely, for me, and I'll just be candid with you guys. I was going to say y'all, but y'all is good. For me, I think the biggest thing that scared me about not being in a relationship, but letting somebody in that close, was them seeing me at my worst, or them seeing me when I was struggling, or them seeing me when I was having a difficult time. And I did, Thomas. And oh no, yeah, I got that. And and I think it's one thing to, we all present a side of ourselves, and I like to think that I'm as open and honest and real with you all as possible. But of course, there's times when we're struggling and we're suffering, and we're in the midst of little objectivity and little insight, and either anxiety is at a peak, or OCD obsessions and compulsions are really just giving us a hard time. And I know for me, having somebody see me in that moment that isn't my parents really scared the crap out of me. And it wasn't a reason I didn't get into relationships, because I tried to meet people and just never met my person until now. But I think the idea of sort of closing yourself off in your room by yourself, and like letting your guard down and just being however you are, that was very comforting to me. The idea of feeling like I was always going to be around someone else, I felt like I was very black and white, and thinking, well, then I can't do that anymore. I can't let my guard down and just be Ethan. Like if I feel like bawling, I want to cry. If I feel like obsessing, I want to obsess. I just can't be me. And I had this very black or white thinking about that process. We are very good actors, and I think OCD sufferers and those of us with OCD and related disorders, we're some of the best actors because we're so used to hiding it and make people think we're doing really well and life is great, right? And so it's been very challenging to learn that it's okay to not be okay. And I've always said that. You've heard me for years, and I've said that for years. But to put it into practice in such a personal way, where it's like I have to trust in the person that I've chosen, I have to trust in myself. I have to trust that I am enough. I have to trust that it's understood that my OCD is a disease, not a decision. It doesn't define who I am, and that nobody is perfect all the time, which I really want to be. And I've strived to sort of learn that that's just not going to be the case. But this particular change for me, yeah, thank you, Katie. I appreciate that. That's her. She said, you can always be you. Hard, even the imperfect you is perfect and enough. Thank you, Katie. Betsy wrote, takes time and patience to adjust to living with someone, for sure. And Jessica wrote, actually, Jennifer asked a question above hand, and I don't, Jennifer, I'll get right back to your question, I promise. I didn't want you to think I skipped it. Jessica wrote, I feel the exact same way, which is why I'm still single, but my therapist is also teaching me that it's okay to take off my mask and be me and be vulnerable with my loved ones. Absolutely. And it's not a guarantee that your loved ones will react in a way that you want to, but there's a lot of stuff around ACT, acceptance commitment therapy, where it's just like if you keep waiting for the right time, it's just never going to feel like the right time. There's always going to be something, that pops in, but it's this idea that, you have to put yourself out there and you have to risk it. And it's worth, because like I said something to Katie that really resonated with her. And actually, Katie, if you want to comment on the exact words that I used, but I said something to her to the effect of, because she struggles with OCD too. And I said something to the effect of, ironically, where OCD is all about embracing uncertainty, the one certainty that you have is if you compulse and engage in OCD, you won't have your life. That is certain. That is certain. But if you're willing to surrender to the treatment and the therapy and the discomfort, if you're willing to surrender to the unknown and the uncertainty surrounding your fears and willing to walk through that fire, knowing that there's something amazing on the other side, even if it isn't what you expect, or you get there and it's not what you expect, or even you don't get there the first time. But the reality is, if you don't try, you'll never know, right? So yeah, she wrote, the only thing that is certain is that you will continue to give up the life you want and deserve if you continue to give into your OCD. Brilliant. Whoever said that's a genius. No, I'm kidding. But I'll say that again. The only thing that is certain is that you will continue to give up the life you want and deserve if you continue to give into your OCD. And that really resonated with her. It resonated with me. And I will tell you that anytime in my own personal process that I've felt overwhelmed by this, I've asked myself, but where have I imagined myself in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Am I alone? Did I imagine myself alone? Was I with somebody that I deeply loved and cared about and connected with? Did I see myself, being successful, whatever that means to me, doing what I love? I do. Of course I do. And all those things require actions, and all those actions have to be in accordance with my values. They cannot be in accordance with OCD's values. And so it's this idea of, I got to take the chance, because if I don't, then I'm guaranteeing myself to a fate of whatever it is I don't want, and just OCD being my best friend for the rest of my life. So to Jessica's statement, I feel the exact, oh yeah, I read Jessica's statement. Whew, a little slow, long day today. But I'm going to read it again. I feel the exact same way, which is why I'm still single, but my therapist is also teaching me that it's okay to take off my mask and be me and be vulnerable with my loved ones. I want to add one thing to that, Jessica. And an important way to do that is come back to that idea of me saying that it's a disease, not a decision, and you're not your OCD. I think that it's so easy for us to identify with our own OCD and to feel defined by our OCD or our mental illness, whatever you may struggle with. And it's to understand that the right people, the people who love you, the people who care about you, the people, that unconditional love will love you for who you are. They'll love you, Jessica. And, maybe they won't always understand the OCD or when OCD is flaring up or whatever, but you'll always be beautiful to them. because they'll see you and the person and not the OCD, especially with education and treatment and, and so forth and so on. And so that's what we have to carry with us. We have to carry with us that we're not our illness, and that people will see us for who we are, and they'll be able to separate with education, compassionate education, as I like to call it. And that's all we can hope for. But we know if we don't try, we definitely don't get to where we hope to be. So I'm excited to hear, Jessica, that, you're possibly willing to be vulnerable. Claire wrote, when you say give in to your OCD, do you mean doing your compulsions and that need to get rid of your anxiety? Thank you for clarifying, Claire. Clarifying. Hilarious. Sorry. If you're new to the stream, there's terrible puns, and it's not for you. But if you can make it through the puns, I occasionally say something intelligent. So I encourage you to stick with me. Yes. So giving into your OCD means I'm going to continue to obsess about what the fear is. I'm going to ruminate on it. I'm going to kind of get stuck on it. And then I'm going to engage in compulsions that I hope will relieve my anxiety. So if I'm afraid a friend is mad at me, I'm going to text them 100 times till I find out they're not. And then I'll worry that I texted them 100 times and I'll text them more, and so forth. Hand washing, whatever the compulsion is, I will continue to engage in the compulsion in an effort to reduce the anxiety, which we know doesn't work. And when I say doesn't work, it means that when you engage in a compulsion initially, it does relieve the anxiety, but for only a short time. And then it all circles back around to the obsession, and then you do the compulsion, and then it creates the vicious cycle that we've all been in or currently are in right now. So yeah, Claire, that's exactly what I meant. I appreciate that. And Katie elaborated as well. Thank you, Katie. So anyway, it's this year for me is all about outside of my comfort zone. That's where the best growth happens. It's not easy. I can sit here and be like, yep, it's all about out of my comfort zone. I'm going to do all the really hard stuff and it's going to be easy. It's not easy. It's really, really hard, but it is worth it. It is worth it. And it's nice when things are comfortable too, but it is worth it, So lots of change on the horizon for me. But I know what I come back to every time I have a scary thought or feeling or an intrusive thought, I come back to what it is I've wanted my whole life, or what it is that I want for my future. And that always, honing in on that value, always lets me know that I'm headed in the right path. And then that's when OCD kind of gets noisy and tries to derail me and say, oh, no. But again, if you keep tuning into that value, what it is that you want, what it is that you really want deep down, then even if you're uncomfortable, you're going the right direction, and then it doesn't matter. You're willing to put up with that discomfort.
My apologies. I couldn't hear what you said.
My watch is talking to me. I apologize for my watch. That was weird. I lost my train of thought, but basically whatever I was about to say, I'm sorry. I should really take off my watch. But what was I saying? Yes, if you get in touch with your values, and let that guide you and use that as a constant reminder of where you want to be, then you're definitely more willing to sit with the discomfort and work through it in an effort to get where you want to be. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Let me jump back up to Jennifer's question at 7:08 p.m. She said, I have an issue. I'm not doing ERP and I don't know why I keep giving into my compulsions after so much therapy. Jess, can we put that up? Jennifer's statement at 7:08 p.m. Thank you. So first of all, you are not alone. This is super common. I can relate to it and did it in treatment all the time. And I'm sure lots and lots of people here can also relate as well to you. So I know in my case, there was a certain point at which I knew everything there was to know about ERP, but I just couldn't. I tried to do it and I thought I was doing it, but it wasn't working, or I just kept giving back into my compulsions. And if you know my story, even after 8-10 months of really intensive treatment, I gave into some pretty substantial compulsions. So a few things come to mind here, and it sounds like after so much therapy you added. So the first question is and these are more questions for you to think about, is are you truly engaging in the ERP? And what I mean by that is there's a certain level that you have to surrender in order for the exposure and the response prevention, which is the most important part, to work. So there's this term which we talked about actually with Thomas called white knuckling. And it means that, you're kind of gritting your teeth and bearing it through the exposure versus really embracing this idea of your worst fear or discomfort coming true, and embracing that fear and thought and letting it be there and sitting with that anxiety and letting it curve on its own. And a lot of times, if you don't do that, if you just kind of grin and bear it, you could do ERP for many years and really never see gains from it, because you're not sitting in the muck, so to speak, and letting that mud surround you and be there and understand that it's okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable. The anxiety isn't going to kill you. I know it's really scary and uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, it's all the means to a beautiful, better future. So, and I'm actually going to scroll back down and see if anybody's commenting on that. But yeah, I think the first thing is, I would look at how you're approaching ERP. I know for me, I was really good at convincing myself that I was engaging in ERP. If you'd have asked me when I was in treatment and in residential, I would tell you I'm giving 100%. I told my therapist I'm giving 100%. The therapy doesn't work. But there was always some part of me that was so afraid of letting my fear be a reality, and not wanting that to be the case, or being so scared of that being the case, that I knew I wasn't fully surrendering. The tricky thing with ERP is you have to be, for lack of a better word, you have to scare the shit out of yourself. You have to be willing for your biggest fear to come true. And ERP is not about proving that it won't. It's simply learning to tolerate the discomfort around the uncertainty that it may or may not, getting to a point where you eventually just don't care. And it's really, really hard to do. So I would look at, how am I gauging the ERP? You can also look at, the therapist. And sometimes, I never want to undermine a therapist, but I would also, I would also consider, like, are you compatible? Are you resonating? You shouldn't enjoy the ERP. So if you love your therapist and you're doing ERP, that's a general sign that you're not really doing ERP the way you should. But there are a few things you could look at. Also, there's an amazing book, John Grayson's Freedom from OCD. We talk about it all the time. It really breaks down ERP in a beautiful way, in a systematic way. It's a self-help book, but even if you work on it with your therapist, or just to give you deeper insight into the ERP, there's also some great references and resources on the IOCDF.org website. But ERP is tricky. So I'd be very compassionate with myself. I would grant myself grace and permission to not do ERP well, because it's really hard and it's really scary. I don't say that to deter anyone. I simply say that because you have to walk through the fire in order to get through ERP. And so that's it. Oh, I will buy it. Thank you. But I thought you said something else. You should buy the book, but also buy into the therapy. Buy into it. I talk about radical faith. It's this idea that I may not see what's in front of me, but I'm going to have acceptance that it's there. I'm just going to have faith that have faith that it's there. So I would really think about how I'm approaching ERP and how much I'm buying in to it, how willing I am to be scared of what I'm afraid happening. And most importantly, the magic doesn't happen in office. The magic happens outside of office, right? You're in office once a week, twice a week, maybe you're in intensive, but the real magic occurs when you're really in life doing it and not giving in. The last thing, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate, I know I rambled on this, but hopefully it was helpful. I know a lot of people can relate. That decision to compulse, it feels like I have to, right? So if I say don't compulse, I think the immediate response for most will be, I can't stop, right? And what we know is it's a choice. It doesn't feel like a choice, but it is, and I won't stop. I'm not willing to stop. I think, Jennifer, something that helps is identifying that it's a choice, right? You have a choice whether to compulse or not. You have a choice whether to give in. You can choose to be uncomfortable but not compulse. But you can also make a very clear choice about why you're choosing not to compulse. And I've said this before, it's the last thing I'll touch. I keep saying it's the last thing, but whatever. Hope everyone's getting into it. It's been a long day, as I said, not making excuse. You know what? I'm just gonna live with being imperfect, being good. The last thing I'll say, Jennifer, is that for me, getting really specific about what I was fighting for helped me in my journey. So when somebody said you need to fight your OCD, or a therapist said, you needed to fight your OCD, I didn't understand what that meant. It's a very ambiguous, amorphous term. Fight your OCD. What does that mean? When I started doing work later on in my journey, and I realized that every time I chose to compulse, I was choosing not to do something meaningful to me. I then realized if I make what I'm choosing not to do very specific, it's easier for me to make decisions not to compulse. So for instance, if at time there was a girl that I liked and I wanted to ask her out on a date, but I knew that I wasn't well enough to go on a date, I could choose to compulse, or I could choose to get better so I could ask this girl out on a date. But better yet, I would reframe it so that instead of saying I'm going to compulse, I would say I'm going to choose not to ask her out. I'm going to choose to be alone tonight. I'm going to choose to ignore her and just listen to my OCD, and replacing this idea of I'm going to compulse with choosing against your values and choosing what you want, but you're not willing to go after, if that makes sense. So being really specific at what I was losing by choosing to compulse really helped me to resist compulsing and be like, you know what? No, I'm going to choose to head in that direction of that date. I'm going to choose not to compulse. Man, is this uncomfortable? This feels terrible. I feel horrible. And that's okay. I'm going to accept that because I know that I'm putting these things away to feel better later. So hopefully that helped, Jennifer. And you commented, thank you, Ethan, very helpful. Yes, I'm not trying and doing the ERP. I think I have to be more mindful as opposed to white knuckling. Good. I'm glad that was helpful for you. And it's not easy. It's very easy to white knuckle, and it's very easy to convince yourself that you are engaging in the ERP. And you can also do a check-in with your therapist too, and really, really be honest and be candid with yourself. Nikki wrote, really struggled over Christmas, still struggling now, to be honest. Ireland has the worst number of cases of COVID in the world, apparently. So I don't feel I'm ever going to get out of the house again. Depression has taken over big time, as well as OCD. I'm sorry to hear that, Nikki. I actually didn't know that statistic. I know it's really hard. I think it's important, Nick, to acknowledge life being a bitch for a lot of people right now. And again, also granting yourself compassion and grace. Yes, your OCD may suck right now and your depression may suck, but life is hard. And I think it's very easy for those of us that struggle with mental illness to quickly put our mental illness in first position, meaning always blame it, like, oh, it's my mental illness again and I'm sick again and blah, blah, blah. When, you know what, lots of people are struggling right now and they don't have a mental illness. So I would recognize the common humanity, meaning the common struggle that we all have. I'm not, in other words, this isn't necessarily all OCD or all depression. It's life. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Life is really, really hard. Then you add a mental illness on top of that. That's a crappy layer cake, that sucks for sure. So Nikki, I hate to hear that you're struggling, and I'm sorry Christmas was hard, and it makes sense. I think so many people could probably relate to you right now. But I think that, what are some little things we have to reframe during this time, what it means to be busy, what it means to be productive. We can't, and you can take it down, Jess. Thank you. I miss my chin. It's such a lovely chin. No, I'm kidding. We have to reframe what it means. We can't live by the same rules that we lived before COVID. And hopefully we'll get back there with the vaccines. And I understand that it's scary because of the amount of cases, but we have to reframe what life should look like for us. And, if your work hasn't changed, if you work from home, if you haven't been that affected by it, then that's wonderful. And if, your life has been turned upside down and maybe you're stuck at home and you can't work and you don't want to get out and it's not, then we have to reframe, what is success in a day? Is it getting up and taking a shower and making myself lunch and going for a walk because everything is closed or quarantined or there's mandates in place that prevent you from going places? Then yes, that's a successful day. Nikki, what does a successful day look like for you right now? What would be meaningful? If you don't feel like getting out of bed, then reframe what a successful day is. Maybe getting out of bed for 20 minutes is a win for a week. Getting out of bed, getting dressed, taking a shower, making yourself lunch, go for a walk, watch TV, challenge yourself, and don't beat yourself up because other people are getting, we should never, ever, ever compare our pain and our struggle with other people's. And it's so easy to do because I do it too. So easy to do, right? Just because somebody, you know, when you deal with a mental illness, as we know, the easiest thing is really hard. So it's so easy to say, well, somebody else can walk outside the door. You know, that should be easy for me. Well, why? Why should it be easy for you? You know? So never compare. But I would encourage you to take a look at what you can do, challenge yourself a little bit, and see. You know, behavioral activation is really the key to overcoming depression. And so, you know, maybe you're doing things during the day, or you're stuck in a rut or whatever. What's a plus one that you can add to that? What's one extra thing you can do tomorrow that you didn't do today? Don't make it too hard. Like I said, get dressed if you're not getting dressed. Take a shower if you didn't take a shower. Go for a walk if you didn't take a walk, you know, and see those as beautiful, amazing wins. So I'm sorry to hear when this is over, I sweat. We are coming. Katie and I will come to Dublin and we will hang out. And I'm super excited because I've never been to Ireland. And, you know, my Irish Jewish roots are calling me. Ivy wrote, hi, Ethan. Lately, I've been struggling with plagiarism OCD, mostly worrying that my ideas, plots, or characters are too similar. I was wondering if you had any advice for this. It's hard because I really love writing. Great question, Ivy. So if you want to post that, Jeff, at 7:13, Jeff, who's Jeff? Well, Jeff is anyway, Jeff's at 7:13 p.m. Ivy. So Ivy wrote, I've been worrying with plagiarism OCD. So I can relate. I'm a writer. You know, I think that, and this is a great lesson in OCD management, is my advice is the exact same advice for anyone else, which is maybe, but are you going to choose to stop writing? You know, so like what we want to say to ourselves is maybe my ideas, plots, and characters are too similar. Maybe I'm stealing from myself or copying someone else. I'm pretty sure that it's OCD. Pretty sure that it's OCD. But you know what? It may not be. And if it's not, maybe I should just stop writing altogether and then I don't have to worry about that. Or I'm going to live with that possibility and do what I love. So, you know, what I would tell you, Ivy, is the exact same thing that I would tell Jennifer, which is the exact same thing that I would tell anybody on here, right? Are you willing to live with the uncertainty, to move into the direction of your values, to do what you love? And it's okay. And again, we want that certainty. We're not going to get it. It doesn't matter how hard we try. We're not going to get it. The only certainty is if we walk in the direction of OCD, then we're going to lose everything we love. So, you know, my advice to you is be willing to be a plagiarist. Be the best one you can be. Challenge yourself. But at the end, I don't know if you're in treatment, Ivy, or you're seeing a therapist. Obviously, that is the best course of action. If not, there are great resources and we always post them and we encourage you to go to them. But your mindset should be, I'm willing to live with the small possibility that I may be, because I would rather do what I love than give into OCD. So, and I would say that you could literally replace plagiarism with any other subtype of OCD, and I would say the exact same thing. Be willing to live with that possibility. Let's see here. Going right along. I hope you guys, let me know if you guys enjoy this process. Like, I know I didn't even get to the topic that I wanted to, but I really love engaging off the bat and maybe just creating. So let me know if you're enjoying this, if you miss me talking and rambling on and on, whatever you prefer. You know, I really want to be here for you guys. Nick wrote, I'm dealing with throttling my OCD to minimize the contamination in my relationship now. It's motivating to do the ERP so my OCD doesn't take me away from my partner. Absolutely, man. Again, specificity for me, really honing in on what I was going to lose if I gave into OCD is the key. And again, I've always said this. Yeah, thank you, Jess. Appreciate it. You know, ERP is an investment. It's like if you won $1 million, but I told you can't spend it today. You have to put it away for like 2 years from now or 3 years from now or 5 years from now. I don't want to give a time frame because we'll get well at some point and feel better. But the point is, you can't spend the money today. You can't compulse. We're going to put it away and we're going to let it build. And one day, suddenly, we're going to feel much better. And all this saving up will have been worth it. all the discomfort that we deal with today is worth the pleasure the rest of our lives. I always say that. So this is the same thing. And also, I don't know, Nick, if you can attest to this, but I find that if I ERP something, if I have a new thought or a new fear or something pops in, it really hits me, and I just don't open the can of worms, I just go straight into triggering myself, it quiets down really fast. Not always, but 75, 80% of the time, if I just really, really go, yeah, totally, 100%, that's going to happen. I'm going to die, blah, 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 blah. Yep. Yes. And everything. And now I'm going to go do what I need to do. More times than not, it quiets down really, really fast. So Nick, I'd be curious, but that's awesome, man. I think identifying, your needs, desires, wants, values, and using those as motivation to not give into OCD is really, really key. Jennifer added, yes, I have health anxiety and cannot stop. I always find an excuse like, oh, it's a new symptom and I don't know what's causing it. So I would challenge you, Jennifer, and I didn't see that, to add, I won't stop. You said I have health anxiety and cannot stop. It's what I talked about earlier. It feeling like it can't, but it is a choice. And I know it doesn't feel like this. So the question is, and I had health anxiety, my story, for years, took my temperature 100 times a day, carried 3 thermometers, a headache was a brain tumor, you name it, right? And it's this idea. In fact, this morning, because I talk about relating, this morning, so if those of you that know me know that when I was really struggling, I was afraid of hitting my head because I was afraid I had a brain bleed. So this morning, I leaned over to look at something the cats were doing, and I hit the temple of my head on the little holder on your bathroom on the wall that holds the towel handle, whatever. I hit it on the corner, and I hit it okay. I didn't hit it that hard, but I immediately, I don't know why, but it triggered the crap out of me because I know that the temple is a soft spot from all the times I did Google things. I was like, oh my God, the temple's a soft spot on my head. You only need to tap it to cause real damage. And I was triggered for 2 hours. But I'll tell you something. And I was even having thoughts like, should I get a cat? All the thoughts, CAT scan, doctors, you name it, right? But what I came to was I'm not interested in going down that rabbit hole again. I would rather in the middle of the day pass out, have a seizure. I know that it's triggering for me to say, throw up, whatever it is. I would rather it happen and me deal with it then than go down the rabbit hole. I'm pretty certain my head isn't injured. I'm pretty sure my brain's okay. I didn't lose consciousness. I'm pretty certain I didn't hit it that hard. So I can make a pretty strong estimated guess that what I'm dealing with is OCD, because I have OCD and I could pretty much notice it, even though particularly this morning it was extra loud and seemed a little bit scarier than usual. And so taking all those things into account, I was like, I'm just gonna move through my day and do what's important to me. I had a busy day. I had meetings back to back from 9 o'clock on. I haven't stopped, which is why I'm a little fuzzy right now. And it's been a great day. It's been a great day. And I don't know what could happen tomorrow, but at least I can say today, you know what? I did everything I was supposed to do. I was present. I was engaged. I was there. I'm here with you guys, and I made the most of it. And strangely enough, you know what else, Jennifer, is when something's up. If you question, if you're like, I'm not sure, that's an OCD thought. If you need to go to the ER, you usually know that you need to go to the ER. The few times that I've been to the ER for legit reasons, there was no question in my mind. Hurt my knee, couldn't walk, was like, I need to go to the ER. All the times I didn't need to go to the ER, I was like, oh, I'm not sure. I don't think so. But God, it would feel really good to know what's up. So I feel you. I'm with you. But that cannot is a won't. So reflect on that a little bit. Kayla wrote, yes, we can only try so hard to help others in understanding our OCD because sometimes it might not happen, and radical acceptance is so important in that case. And then choosing to put our energy elsewhere because it can be draining trying to get someone to understand who is not willing to try. Absolutely. Not everybody's going to get OCD. I would hope that majority of people do and that your loved ones do. I've really only had really positive experiences with coming out about my OCD and other issues in really public ways. I can probably count on one hand or even maybe two hands the number of people that have reacted incorrectly, but I've been grateful enough to have amazingly supportive friends and family. And there's only been one woman in my life who didn't get it, and she's no longer in my life. And that's on her, not me. I know it's not the same for everybody, but you're absolutely right. Not everybody's going to understand it. We can do our best to and I always say compassionately educate. And I say that because it can be very angry. It can be angersome is not a word. What word am I looking for? It can be really frustrating and annoying and make you angry when somebody doesn't understand or even care to understand, or just thinks that you're just being weak or lame or boring, not trying hard enough. And, but we're not going to get through by screaming and yelling, at least initially. So I think I always say compassionate education, pull up resources, sit down, go on a computer, go to IOCDF.org, pull up videos, pull up documentaries, get an advocate to advocate for you, if that helps. There's a lot of things we can do, and most people do come around. But at the end of the day, you know who you are. You deserve better than that. If somebody's not going to come around and understand it, then, move on in a way that's meaningful to you. If it's a parent, that's even harder. And they can still be your parents, but, maybe there's certain things you don't talk about. But thank you, Kayla. I think that's great advice. Let's keep plugging along here. Tina wrote, I just started ERP 10 years into my OCD journey, nervous but excited. I am so psyched for you, Tina. I started ERP 32 years into my journey, and it along with the other therapies that I did were completely life-changing. And I think, it sucks that it took you 10 years to find treatment, and that's why we do what we do. But man, grab it and run with it, because you got your whole life ahead of you. And I don't know how old you are. You could be 30, you could be 80. You've still got a lot. You've got good life to have, and it's totally worth it. So buy into it. Know that you finally found the right thing. I always say, if I did it, you can do it. And I know a lot of people feel that way too. So I'm super excited for you, Tina. That's awesome. Betsy wrote, so true and so steep and tough to face. ERP, it's work though. Keep facing the damn fears. Absolutely. Elle wrote, struggling with CPTSD and OCD. Okay. I haven't done any treatment for OCD yet, but I'm afraid because some of my obsessions are also major triggers. Obsession with liquids, and was told to hold a drink and think for a medical procedure, and the flashbacks got so bad I almost killed myself. This scares me that this could again happen if I have to do ERP again. Elle, I'm sorry. I struggle with PTSD. I don't talk about it that much, but I have talked about it. It isn't tied into my OCD, but I will tell you that it can be tricky. And I think that I know lots and lots of people that have PTSD and OCD and have gotten better. And you can too, 100 million %, not even a question. It is important to find a therapist that is well-versed in ERP and PTSD, right? And there's different modalities of treatment to deal with that. Obviously, you're gonna have to be triggered, but we also do not want to they don't want to make you, I say we, but obviously the goal is to not put you in a suicidal state or risk your life or anything like that, right? So you need somebody that really understands both. I don't know. The last stream I did this too. I itched my nose constantly. I'm going to not itch my nose. And as weird as this sounds, it may be a compulsion during a live stream. So call me out if I itch. I'm just going to sit here. It's a good analogy. My nose is itching and I'm not going to scratch it. I'm going to sit with the discomfort because I look ridiculous every time I go to scratch my nose. So for the next 16 minutes, not touching my nose. So Elle, first of all, I want to give you hope that there is hope and there is treatment, and ERP is definitely, along with other modalities of treatment, they might need to treat the PTSD first, or a combination of both. So I'll give some email addresses out at the end, but that maybe you can email me and I can, maybe help connect you with some people that may be able to direct you in the right places, but definitely don't lose hope. Don't be afraid. I mean, it's scary, but obviously the goal is to get you better, not worse. And so lots of people with PTSD and OCD, for various reasons, attached, not attached, you can get better. And we're more than happy at the IOCDF to help you find accessible treatment that makes sense for you and it can address both issues. So don't hesitate to reach out. I'll give you an email address at the end. You can email me directly. Jennifer wrote, thank you not only for myself, but my motivation is my 14-year-old daughter. I thought about it and I don't want her to have this problem and model me. I want to be a better example. That's a great reason. That's a great reason, Jennifer. And again, give yourself compassion and love and grace for, I'm sorry. There we are. The comments update and I lose my place. Give yourself grace and compassion for, everything that's come before. But That's such a wonderful motivation, and also, if your daughter has issues, you'll know how to address. It's just such a beautiful thing all around. I love that identifier of a motivator and purpose for you, Jennifer. So that's awesome. Ashley wrote, I've been dealing with trying to support my husband. He has OCD and had a bad thought of sexually hurting our daughter coming to light last year. Because of it, we've had to live separately. He's been in therapy since last year and has been slowly getting better. This can be hard to answer, and that's okay. But what do you look for when it comes to support from a loved one when it's so hard for the loved one to trust again? This is a hard question to answer, Ashley, only because I don't know a lot of the specifics of your situation. And there's a lot of really touchy conversation around this. POCD, so fears around sexually or violently harming your daughter or a child is very common for OCD. It's not talked about often because it's considered a more taboo thought, but that's the media. It's probably that, and harm OCD is probably more common than washing hands and checking, right? So, that's very common. I don't know. You're telling me he has OCD. I don't know what his diagnosis officially is, or if there's other things going on, or, I don't want to make any presumptions, but, I compulsed. I'm not distracting Ashley, but I am very aware of my actions. All right. But I just pushed up on a nostril. Doesn't count. So I want to be mindful of because I'm not sure what you're not trusting. If you're not trusting because he had that thought, the first thing any partner can do is becoming educated about the partner's OCD. And you do that by being part of their treatment and therapy. Now, again, I don't know, Ashley, if your husband has OCD, if he's diagnosed, if there's other things going on. But in general, I'm going to work off the premise that he has OCD, in which case the best thing you can do is educate yourself, get involved in treatment, better understand the thoughts, the feelings. Individuals with OCD, I would trust my kid with a person that had those thoughts with OCD more than I would trust a kid without, because OCD attacks the things we love most, including our values. That's why I always talk so hard about values. It pulls on those strings. So for people with OCD, that's what they deeply care about most. So the fear it's not a desire, right? There's no desire to sexually hurt your daughter. That's the difference between a psychosis or some other ailment. The OCD is, what if I had this thought? And thoughts are thoughts. OCD thoughts are no different than anybody else's thoughts. Okay? We all have the same thoughts. An individual with OCD gets stuck on that thought, and then that thought continues to loop. And there becomes emotions attached to that thought. So with somebody OCD having the thought of like, oh my God, what if, just by having the thought, you might feel like a bad person. Why did I have that thought? I had that thought. What if I want to hurt my daughter? And then what if I feel like I want to hurt my daughter? Maybe I'm a horrible person, and it just goes down this huge rabbit hole. But there's a very big difference between fear of and wanting to. And so again, I don't want to weigh too much in because I just don't know the details, but OCD education, and being in on the treatment and therapy is a huge step. If you're saying trust because he had the thought, that's why I would say education is so important for you, Ashley, really understanding, how OCD affects, what that OCD looks like for him. Because again, these are all thoughts that terrify us. We do not want these things to happen. That's why we do everything in our power to make sure that they don't, to find that certainty to prevent those things from happening. Hopefully that helped answer your question. You can also, we can talk more if you want to email me. I will give it out. You have I Ashley also wrote, I honestly love hearing your story, and this platform gives me a fresh perspective to help me better understand my husband's OCD journey, especially with me being a school counselor. That makes sense, Ashley, for sure. And I wasn't at all insinuating that he doesn't have OCD or that, I think that it's a very hard subject to broach, especially because so many people don't understand OCD. So you can only imagine if you don't really know why you're having the thoughts you're having, and those particular thoughts happen to be fears of, or intrusive thoughts about sexually hurting a child or even your own daughter. How do you say that to someone, especially if you don't even know what you're dealing with, right? That's why those subtypes are so stigmatized, and they need to be talked about more, right? Because people are afraid if they talk about them and people don't understand them, they're going to go to jail, and they have a right to. because people need to understand that these are OCD thoughts. These are thoughts, right? These are common OCD symptoms, and they can be addressed and they can be treated. And these individuals are not dangerous. They're not a threat to society. They're not a danger to your daughter, right? And so education around these topics. I didn't touch my nose, by the way. That was my upper lip. Education around these topics are so deeply important. So as Katie said, I think that's awesome that you're supporting your husband and your students' education around this topic. And we have some great articles on the IOCDF.org website on POCD and other violent, intrusive, sexual, thought-oriented OCD. There's also some great social media sites like Pure Chrissy. Kim Quinlan has a great website called Your Anxiety Toolkit. Not website, Instagram. So, but know that like that thought is very, very common. Even though it's scary and spooky, it's a very common thought, and it's very, very treatable. Jessica wrote, speaking of COVID, do you by chance know how the IOCDF conference in New York going to work with all the people, or will it be canceled? Great question, Jessica. It's currently in conversation right now. I know they'll be making a decision in March. Right now, there's still a certain limit on the amount of people they can have gather in certain meeting rooms. So obviously it'll depend on that. So keep an eye out. What I will tell you, and I'll announce it at the end, is the IOCDF is having, I think, 5 or 6 virtual conferences. And so we will have plenty of things to do. New York, stay tuned on that. And hi from Toronto, Anthony. Welcome. Let's see here. What else do we have? I see some great conversation with Thomas. I'm glad that helped Jennifer. Ashley wrote in response to Katie, it's been so hard, but things happen for a reason. At this point in my training, I never knew half of what OCD is and its depths. It's been a huge learning journey, that's for sure. I think that's very brave of you, Ashley, to dive in. And again, the beautiful thing about OCD, and it's hard for us to recognize this, is it's one of the most treatable mental illnesses out there. We know ERP is so well studied and researched, and it's so effective in treating OCD, along with acceptance commitment therapy and other modalities of treatment. Now, I'm not saying, because I already know what you're all thinking, like, well, if it's so easy to treat, how come I'm not getting better? I had that thought too. I'm not saying it's easy to treat. I'm just saying that take comfort in knowing that it's a very treatable disorder if you buy in and do the work. So that should give you a lot of motivation. Betsy wrote, when a trigger is cited while I'm in a store or driving, I thank my brain for alerting me, then move on. Any other ideas? I think that's awesome, Betsy. So I love this. It really depends where you are in your journey. That's what I do. I'm in a management stage of OCD. I almost went for the nose. I don't know what's going on. I'm in a management stage of OCD. So for me, I don't want to take up my time, my day, right, doing OCD work. I did that. I took up many years doing residential and inpatient. So I like the wave and like, hey, good to see you. Noticed you. Yep. All right. You too. You have a great day later. Right. But you can absolutely also engage it. And what I mean by engage it is trigger yourself and do an exposure around it. So start to like, whatever the trigger is. I'm in a store driving. So, if you have hit and run OCD and you hit a bump, you can either say, oh, there it is. There's that OCD thought. Yep, might have hit someone. Okay, thanks. See you later. And let it go and move on, and like opposite action, engage yourself in a value-driven action. Or, if you're still struggling or you really want to, there's opportunity. That's a real life opportunity to engage in a harder ERP, which is like, I totally hit somebody. I absolutely hit somebody. I'm pretty sure I hit someone. They probably had a baby. I killed the baby. I didn't turn around. Oh my God, I'm going to go and play it out and scare yourself and sort of do what you did back at the beginning of ERP. I'm all for moving about in life. So I love the wave, and you got to come up with a saying like the wave and see ya or something, but it needs to rhyme though. But depending on where you are, if you're in treatment or in therapy or trying to get into that management stage, then engaging in that ERP and using that as an opportunity to really scare yourself in an effort to increase your anxiety to then decrease without compulsing, that's a great opportunity to do it. But I think that's great. And I don't, that's all you need. Brace it, give it a hug, give it a wave, and send it on its way and move on for sure. So Daniel wrote, I found I don't want to choose values because I want to choose the right, perfect ones. Part of this protects me from having to feel pain and acknowledge we get value from stepping inside ego. That's a big thing to unpack, David, because Daniel, sorry. because what is the right and perfect value? I think we can really get into whole perfectionistic OCD here and really dive deep. I would encourage you to be willing to choose the wrong value in an effort to move forward and get better. So, Jennifer just wrote, "Holy crap, I did this. I hit my head during a Christmas Xmas and worried about a brain bleed. I had a major panic attack." Okay, so Jennifer, actually, Jess, if we could put the link to my keynote. Jennifer, your homework is to watch my keynote speech from 2014. It's got the whole story in about head hitting and the crazy stunt that I did. And then definitely email me and let me know what you think. We brain bleeders got to stick together, although we all stick together and support one another. But that's yeah, it's not original. I thought I had it. I thought I had the copyright on that particular OCD fear. Turns out I plagiarized. I plagiarized that fear. So we're all stealing from everybody else. Hey, Renee, it's good to see you. Slowly catching up. Renee said, "I'm having difficulty with ERP and focusing on my anxiety after ERP. I try to sit with my anxiety, but I find I am watching it and it turns into panic." Then what happens? That's my question. Then what? It gets more uncomfortable, but then what happens? Let's see here real quick. It is, Nick wrote, "It's challenging to hide my OCD and still be present, but it is motivating." Okay, but Nick, I agree with you, but we have to look at, this whole process is all about little wins. And so we don't want to get black and white with our idea of what's present. There isn't 100% present or 0% present. There's lots of percentages in between. So you know what? If I'm super triggered and I can be there 20%, that's a win, because I know when I was really sick, I wasn't there at all. It was not there. I was in my head worrying about 1,000 different things. So if I'm 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%, it's a great day. And if I'm 100% in, which I honestly was most of the day today, and you have seconds here, seconds there, then that's awesome. So it is challenging to hide the OCD and still be present. But at the same time, I don't know that hiding it is the right word. I think letting it be there, coexisting with it, letting it hang out, but don't serve it drinks. Don't give it a Coke. Just let it be there and be thirsty. And be present the best you can. Anyway, that's a win. Thanks, Ethan. Nikki wrote, "Thanks, Ethan. I do try to push myself all the time, but it's getting harder. So getting out of bed is certainly an achievement at the moment. Having my cat help. Excited to meet yourself and Katie one day. Something to look forward to." Absolutely. For sure. We'll bring our cats too. Tanya wrote, "We're running up. I have one more minute." One more minute. Thank you, Jen. Wow. Jess. I called her Jeff. I called her Jen. I should itch my nose more. Perhaps that will help. Thank you, Jess, for posting the link to my keynote as well as some other links. Please go through the comment threads and check it out. I'm going to jump back up to this last question that I saw because I like to go in order. Tanya wrote, "Ethan, I have big motivation problems. Don't want to do what I need to do. How can I motivate myself or figure out why I feel so unmotivated because not getting stuff done? Big problem." So Tanya, I'm actually going to move on to one more question, but I actually had a huge conversation about this and how to motivate yourself at the beginning of this and how to reframe things so we're not compulsing. I would urge you to, this will be recorded, to go back and take a look at the first half of this and see if there's some things to grab onto. And I'm curious if you mean unmotivated in terms of just life in general or engaging in treatment and therapy and ERP, what specifically you're unmotivated about. Let me jump to one more question. Let's see here. Oh, I'm looking for a question mark. It's really exciting. So again, it's exactly hit it. So you guys are having such awesome conversation. This is fantastic. Okay, we'll end on Renee's question. Last question, 7:54 p.m. My thoughts are, and she just wrote earlier about panic. "My thoughts are focused around self-harm. I've done better with the thoughts and allowing them to be there, but the anxiety sticks around after my ERP, and I am having a difficulty with the feeling. I'm constantly focusing on the feeling and it turns into panic. Any suggestions?" Great question, Renee. So I can relate to this. Okay. First of all, I can absolutely and totally relate to this. My fear was hitting my head. I would do ERPs where I had to hit my head. This was in residential program. And then that night when everybody else was calmer because their ERPs were over and their anxiety subsided, I was convinced I had a brain bleed and that it could hit any moment, and my anxiety was at 10. So I never felt like I got relief, that the exposure, the anxiety never curved. I constantly felt like I was at a 9 or a 10 because every trigger lasted for hours and hours and hours and hours, while everybody I watched seemingly after the ERP was over started to feel better, which made me feel really ostracized. I alienated myself. It's very easy for me to say that, my OCD is different from everybody else's OCD, and my OCD is much more severe than everybody else's OCD. It was easy for me to go down that rabbit hole and thus really kind of put a shield up and not listen to therapy. So I get it. And I come back to what I said earlier, which is I had to get to a point where I just realized I wasn't going to move forward unless I just embraced those feelings, no matter how uncomfortable, and embrace that panic, even if it wasn't comfortable, and realize that you don't have to feel good to do meaningful things throughout the day. So not only did I have to feel that crap, but I had to take it with me to go to do things, buy food, take care of my house, even go to my job. I couldn't tell you how many times I was in Boston going to work crying. I would work for 5 minutes, go in the bathroom, cry, panic attack, go back out, work for 5 minutes, cry, panic attack, brain bleed. Oh my God, what if this, what if that, right? Had the panic, had the feeling, but did anyway. And it was miserable. But we have this belief in our head that we have to feel good to do things, or at least feel better to do things. And really, there's no hard, fast rule. We can feel like shit and do it anyway. And that's really the secret. A, to embrace the crap. B, to realize that the crap isn't going to hurt you, even though it's really uncomfortable. And C, be willing to do meaningful things, even if you feel like crap. It's a lot of crap. But the point is that by doing that, engaging in that action, I promise you, the goal is not to feel better at the end of the day. It's just to move forward in proactive, value-driven action. And what happens is when you go to bed at the end of the day, you may feel like crap and think that, man, I had a crappy day. I cried all day, whatever. But a little strength brick forms somewhere deep down. And there's a check mark that goes off that said, I did today. May not have been pretty, may have been ugly. I ugly cried in front of people, but you know what? I did today. And so I may not feel better at the end of that day. I may not feel better in a week. I may not feel better in a month, but one day suddenly that panic attack, that anxiety level, it starts to drop and you start to feel better. And then you start to function and feel better. And then you start to experience joy and happiness while you're functioning. And that's the goal. So hopefully that helped. If I didn't get to your question, please don't hesitate to email me and ask your question. I'll always get back to my emails. I'll get to my, thank you, Jess. Jess read my mind. So yeah, we'll go ahead and address this. If I didn't answer your questions, if you want to elaborate on any of the things that I did talk about, if you want to reach out for anything at all, questions, comments, topics, suggestions, you can always email me at justethan@iocdf.org. I will always get back to you. It may take me a few days, but I will definitely get back to you. So don't hesitate to email me there. Just a few housekeeping notes. Let's see here. Got to pull up the housekeeping document and my nose really itches, but I'm going to live with the discomfort. Okay. So tomorrow, Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, Lunch and Learn with Dr. Liz. The topic is LGBTQ. She's having the phenomenal Chris Tronsden on. Chris is awesome. You probably know him from the conference. He does so much great advocacy work. Liz will be talking to Chris on all LGBTQ issues. Definitely tune in 12 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Also, starting Tuesday, February 2nd, join us for a new monthly live stream series called Diversity Roundtable. It's hosted by Tawana Watson, who has been on our town hall numerous times. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern. This live stream will cover topics about OCD and related disorders as it relates to minority communities. And finally, get your proposal request in by February 2nd. Have you been to a conference and you didn't see what you wanted to see? Is there a topic that you feel wasn't addressed that needs to be addressed? Submit. Yes. For the IOCDF 2021 virtual events, you can check out the conference event calendar at iocdf.org/conference. That's iocdf.org/conference. And you can read more about the variety of, like I said before, virtual conferences and live events that they'll be having. Submit a panel, have a conversation. You do your advocating amazingly here on the comment thread. It's a great place to speak. It really is supportive and amazing. So just a few things that are going on. Also, if you want to know all the virtual programming that is going on over the next 3 months, go to iocdf.org/peace of mind. They have all the programming content there. It's iocdf.org/peace of mind for all the program. There you go. There's the website. And that has all my Just Ethans, all the Live with Liz's and the Dr. Liz's. We've got, like I said, we've got the Diversity Roundtable coming up. We've got some awesome town halls. We've got live streams on sports and sport athletics, OCD and athletics. Is that 3 times that I touched my nose? It's so hard. So lots of good stuff. Check that out. See what's going on below. With that, I always want to thank the IOCDF and my digital partner behind the scenes, Jess. Her name is Jess, not Jeff, not Jen. It's Jess for doing all her digital voodoo. If you haven't already, you want to be notified about all the programming the IOCDF is having over the next month. Definitely be sure to subscribe and follow on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. That way, if you're just cruising on Facebook and we happen to jump online, you will be notified. And that's it. That's it. You're very welcome, all of you. Thank you for the very, very kind comments. I really appreciate it. You're very welcome, Jennifer. Thank you, Lovelana. Thank you, Betsy. Thank you, Renee. Appreciate all of you. So we'll see you 2 weeks from tonight. As always, again, you can email me at justethan@iocdf.org. And also never hesitate to email the foundation at info@iocdf.org if you have anything that pertains to resources, topics, things that you'd like to see. You can email them about anything. They'll definitely get back to you. So as always, have a wonderful evening. Stay safe, stay vigilant, feel the feels. Don't let OCD off the hook. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.